Absolute Batman only works because Scott Snyder walked away from DC. And that sounds backwards until you realize this isn't a comeback story, it's the result of a creator taking the long way back. Because the Absolute Universe isn't just a new continuity, and Absolute Batman isn't just a darker remix, it's the culmination of Scott Snyder's entire creative journey. Every fear he's written about, every risk he's taken, and every lesson he's learned by stepping away when he needed to. The Absolute Universe is what if DC took its biggest heroes and didn't reboot them, didn't modernize them, didn't just give them a darker coat of paint, but instead took away the one thing that makes them feel inevitable. The easiest way to understand it is to stop thinking of it as an alternate continuity and start thinking of it as an experiment, a brand new shared world separate from main continuity where the core ideas of these heroes are preserved, while everything that usually protects those ideas is stripped away. And the reason this experiment works, the reason it feels different, comes down to who's behind it. Scott Snyder doesn't just write superheroes, he writes fear. He writes the quiet panic of realizing you don't fully understand the world you live in anymore, or your place in it. And for a long time now, I've felt like we don't talk enough about just how much he's shaped modern comics, or how his personal creative journey led directly to what the Absolute Universe is doing right now. This isn't just a new line of books, it's a culmination. From the beginning, Snyder has approached comics from a different angle. His stories don't ask, can the hero win? They ask, what does winning cost? There's always unease under the surface, a sense that the ground beneath these characters isn't as solid as they think it is. That comes straight from his love of horror. Not horror as shock value, but horror as metaphor. Fear as a way to explore identity, legacy, and belief under pressure. That philosophy exploded into the mainstream with his Batman run, especially the Court of Owls. On paper, it shouldn't have worked. Gotham had been mapped, dissected, explained from every angle. Batman knew the city, or at least he thought he did. What Snyder did was introduce a threat that didn't overpower Batman physically, it destabilized him psychologically. The court didn't just exist in Gotham, it proved that Gotham had never fully belonged to Batman in the first place. That idea made Gotham feel dangerous again, unknowable again, and more importantly, it made Batman vulnerable in a way that felt honest. Snyder has talked openly about how much that run was rooted in his own fear of stepping into something he wasn't sure he was ready for, fear of legacy, fear of failing, and you can feel that honesty on every page. Batman isn't just fighting assassins in owl masks, he's fighting the terrifying possibility that he's misunderstood the world he's built his life around. That's what hooked me. This wasn't Batman as a power fantasy, this was Batman as doubt, Batman as conviction under strain, and it reminded me that these characters still had room to surprise me. That same emotional DNA runs through Snyder's work beyond Gotham. Swamp Thing isn't just body horror and ecological dread, it's a story about identity dissolving and realizing you may no longer belong to the world you're trying to protect. American Vampire takes a familiar monster and reframes it as a reflection of American ambition and reinvention. The beauty and the brutality of believing you deserve more. Snyder doesn't use horror to gross you out, he uses it to leave a mark. And then something important happened. After years at the center of DC, after being the guy, Scott Snyder stepped away. Not out of bitterness, not out of burnout, but because that level of creative pressure changes how you work. When every story has to hold up the line, when every choice feels symbolic, when everything needs to matter for an entire universe, it becomes harder to hear your own voice. So Snyder took time away, and that time mattered. His creator-owned and indie work wasn't just about spectacle, it was about recalibration, about experimenting, about reconnecting with belief instead of obligation. You can feel the shift, less anxiety, more confidence, less proving, more trusting. This is where Snyder stopped writing to justify himself and started writing from conviction. Which brings us back to the Absolute Universe. Snyder's pitch for Absolute is disarmingly simple. Keep the soul, remove the safety net, strip these characters down to their absolute core values, then change everything else. That idea isn't just clever, it's philosophical, and it shapes the entire line. Snyder has described the main DC universe as being shaped by something like Superman energy, aspirational, stabilizing, hopeful. The Absolute Universe is shaped by the opposite gravity, Darkseid energy, not because Darkseid is looming in every issue, but because the world itself assumes inevitability. pressure, resistance, the belief that systems win and idealism is inefficient. This is a universe built to test you, a world that doesn't celebrate heroism, doesn't reward it, and often treats it like a liability. Heroes aren't the solution here, they're the disruption. That idea landed hard for me because it feels much closer to how the world actually feels right now. Doing the right thing doesn't feel heroic, it feels inconvenient. And that's exactly the environment this line is built around. That's why Absolute Batman works the way it does. This isn't Batman turned meaner or edgier. This is Batman without the assumptions we subconsciously rely on to make him function. No fortune to smooth out consequences, no institutional comfort, no invisible hand making sure things ultimately work out. What's left is belief under pressure. Snyder has talked about writing this Batman less from Bruce Wayne's internal monologue and more from a caretaker's perspective, the way someone like Alfred would see it, watching a young man step into a hostile world and refuse to lower his expectations. That shift reframes Batman completely. He's not about control here, he's about conviction. Parenthood plays into that as well. Snyder has spoken about seeing his own kids reflected in this version of Batman, not as power fantasies, but as ideals. That stubborn refusal young people have to accept that the world is broken beyond repair. Batman doesn't dominate this universe, he persists in it. And once you understand that, the rest of the Absolute line snaps into focus. These books don't escalate through bigger threats, they escalate through pressure. Every title removes the thing that usually makes that hero feel safe. Absolute Wonder Woman is compassion without sanctuary. Absolute Martian Manhunter is empathy without belonging. Absolute Flash is momentum without escape. Absolute Green Lantern is willpower without institutions to stand behind. Different heroes, same hostile environment, same philosophical test. The villains reflect that too. They aren't gimmicks, they're arguments. And the Joker especially isn't here to check a box. In a universe shaped by inevitability, the Joker becomes the purest challenge to Batman's belief system. Not, can Batman beat him? Can Batman keep meaning what he says he means when the world keeps rewarding the Joker's worldview? That's the real conflict running through this line, not punches. Philosophy under stress. This is also where the Absolute Universe stopped being just an interesting idea for me and became something that genuinely re-energized my love for comics. I've always gone back and forth between Marvel and DC over the years, depending on what was clicking creatively. But in 2025, almost without me realizing it, my reading shifted hard toward DC. At this point, I'm probably 95% DC, 5% Marvel, and that Marvel slice is almost entirely the Ultimate books. That's not brand loyalty, that's momentum. And it wasn't just me. Retailers were talking almost immediately about Absolute Batman's launch being one of DC's strongest in years. First issues sold out, subsequent printings followed. Shops reported lapsed readers coming back specifically because these books felt accessible, modern, and purposeful. The Absolute line didn't just get attention, it got people through the door. That feeling was familiar in the best possible way. I was a huge fan of the original Marvel Ultimate Universe when it launched, and I followed it from inception to its end. That sense of comics feeling new again, while still starring characters you already love, that's exactly what feels familiar. Familiar, but re-energized, a breath of fresh air without throwing away the past. And DC clearly agreed with that. This isn't being treated like a limited event. The Absolute Universe exists on its own Earth, but it's designed to expand. New books are being announced, new creative teams are lining up. This isn't racing toward an ending, it's being built upward, built outward. Which brings everything back to Scott Snyder. Absolute Batman doesn't work because it's darker, it works because it's honest, because it's written by a creator who took the long way back, who stepped away, recalibrated, and returned with a clearer sense of belief than ever before. Scott Snyder didn't just come back to Batman, he came back changed. And if comics are at their best when they remind us why this medium matters, when they make us feel something and hold on to it, then the Absolute Universe isn't DC asking you to remember why you loved superheroes, it's asking whether you still believe in them. And if this is what happens when a creator takes the long way back, then honestly, I don't think we've felt the full impact of Scott Snyder just yet.